Hey there guys, so Matt here. So I was gonna film a video a couple of weeks ago actually about doing some winter maintenance that I had talked about, and I started to try to do it, and what I was doing was pulling the lowers off of my fork and doing a basic service on my fork. This is something I had mentioned in blog post that I had posted up on Everyday MTB, and it's a good thing to do in the springtime. Trouble was, this was the first time I was pulling the lowers off of this bike and they wouldn't come off, so I had to table it because I had some other projects to get to for a little while. But I just took another crack at it last night actually, and I got the lowers off. So I just wanted to share with you, first of all, the little secret that I used to take those lowers off, in case you run into this. This is on a Rockshox Revelation fork, and so if you ever run into this, you can use the same trick. And then I'm just gonna walk through kind of a basic lower leg service and show that it's pretty simple, something you can probably tackle yourself and get your fork running better. Alright, so here's what I'm talking about when talking about pulling the lower legs off. These on a fork, this part of your suspension fork, are your lowers. These are your uppers, since they're higher, and these are your lowers. Unless you're running some kind of weird inverted fork, that's kind of the way it works. So, the trouble that I was having was the lowers attach to the uppers in the bottom using these two nuts. And so those two nuts go into the bottom here and attach then to these two posts. I don't know the technical term for these, but to those two posts. And then they kind of seal into there. And so what you have to do is you back these nuts part way out, and then you take a rubber mallet and tap on the, you don't tap directly on the nuts, you actually tap on an Allen key that is going into these bolts, sorry, not nuts, into these bolts. And so you tap on those, and that kind of releases the seal around here, and then you can just slide the lowers off. But my lowers were not sliding off when I did that. So, a couple of things that I did in order to get around that. First of all, I ended up taking the fork completely off the bike. As you can see, I have it in the bike stand here, so I took it off the bike completely, just so the bike wasn't wiggling around and everything as I was trying to work on it. Also allowed me to put the fork in a different orientation that allowed me to just work on it easier. So that's the first thing I did. Second thing that I did, and this is actually the real secret because that wasn't enough in and of itself. Second thing I did was I used a hair dryer. So this was a little secret that I picked up online from some other people who had the same problem. Basically what you do is you just heat up your lowers with a hair dryer. I did it for maybe 5 minutes, something like that, and then did the pound procedure again on the bottom, and that loosened it up. So that's the little secret. Just heat it up a little bit. I mean, don't go ham with like a propane torch or something like that. You'll probably damage your lowers. But just a little bit of heat was enough to expand and contract that metal just a tiny bit to help it get disconnected. So at this point, we're ready to continue on with the lower service. Alright, so once again, this isn't really intended to be your factory service manual or anything like that. I just want to really basically just show someone going through this for the first time, figuring it out. I haven't ever serviced this fork before, and just show that it's not anything to be afraid of. You can problem solve along the way, learn more about how these buggers work, and you'll be a smarter mountain biker for it, and it's kind of fun. So the next thing in the SRAM procedure, which is what you should be following if you're like really looking at how to do this, is we need to pull out these foam rings that are in here. So inside of here we have some foam rings that we will need to pull out, and they use a little like dental pick sort of thing. I don't have that, but I have this little syringe with a with a needle on the end, and I think that'll work to pull it out. Alright, there's one foam ring. There we go. Alright, so the next step is we need to clean these bad boys off. And SRAM says to use isopropyl alcohol for this. Alright, so I've now got my rings soaking in a bath of fresh Rockshox oil. And I've started cleaning off the lowers, just getting all the grime and everything off of them with just alcohol. So I've just been cleaning them off here with my rubbing alcohol. And they are rather grimy. And to clean off the inside here, I'm going to need to make a tool. And that's what this is for. So I'm going to use this to, I need to drill a hole in this dowel. I'm going to use it basically like a ram rod to ram a paper towel with some alcohol on it down there and clean out inside of there. So let's do that. Now it would be very counterproductive if I got sawdust into here, into my lowers with this ramrod that I'm using to clean the lowers. So I think I'm going to sand this off a little bit, just make sure that every last little bit of sawdust is off here. Wipe it down good before I stick it in there. So homemade ramrod is ready. Alright, so now at this point we can, this is all cleaned out in here, and we can go ahead and put these oily guys back in. Alright, those guys are in. Alright, so now at this point we need to grease the inside of the actual wiper seals, and we're going to push this back onto there. So I'm using some SRAM slick honey butter, SRAM butter, I think. SRAM butter, that's what it's called, SRAM butter. It's supposed to be this really slippery stuff, and is what SRAM recommends. I've heard a lot of people use slick honey too, so if you have that, you can probably use that. So this is that stuff, SRAM butter. Alright, so we're just gonna go on here and try to not contact anything. We have to make sure these seals then, as we push this onto here, don't fold over. So next up, we're going to put in our oil, which is actually going to be kind of interesting because these are recessed in here, so it'll be a bit more of a challenge. So I have a syringe here, an extra long needle. Alright, so there's our first 5 milliliters. Put that in the first leg. Now we can go ahead and start reassembling these. So red guy goes in here. Oh, we need to actually get this visible. Alright, that looks like it's lined up. Red guy goes in the rebound side. Black bolt goes in the non-rebound side. Rebound knob pushes back on. It's still crazy to me that that just pushes in there, and that's it works, but it does. And at this point, we're basically done with this lower leg service. It's all back together. It's set to go. And we just need to put the fork back on the bike at this point. So it's not that complicated, and it will make your fork last much longer. Alright, so I've got my fork service done, so I'm going to go give it a little test ride. As I noticed, it's been snowing here, so I'm going to head over to the local bike park and do a little riding there. So I was just reading some about the new 2019, I guess, stump jumper, and it was kind of interesting. These specialized engineers were saying that they rode the alloy version and the carbon version back to back, and they found that the alloy version of the old stump jumper was stiffer, and it cornered better because of that. So it makes me feel pretty good about my choice of running the alloy stump jumper instead of the carbon version. Still a little snowy, eh, guys? A little bit. Is this a regular lunchtime stop for you guys?
Day off Friday stop, I guess. Today.
Oh, okay.
You?
Sweet. Yeah,
Nice.
it's just
Nice.
when there's no trails to ride,
Sure, there you go.
gotta do something.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
You guys don't have that problem. So I'm having to kind of play with my pressure here, just using these jumps here, or rollers, whatever you want to call them, to test out my fork here, because I was having to kind of cheat the pressure and the rebound in order to get it to work properly before I rebuilt it, because it had some stiction in it. So now that it's feeling good, I need to kind of refactor things out here. So I think that's getting closer. Yeah, so the stump jumper article was pretty funny because they're talking about how they made it more like the aluminum version, which is the cheaper bike. So I guess just take that as a lesson that Specialized sold thousands of carbon stump jumpers in the last couple of years. It didn't turn as well as the aluminum versions. Hey dear. You're fine. They've had a tough spring of it. No need to stress them out extra. So yeah, so that's spring in Wisconsin. Snow and trail work and fixing my suspension from all the mud and crap that we've had. This is a story for another day, but right in the winter I had a through axle freeze up on me on one of my forks, which
I think just because of the salt corrosion. Wisconsin is not the friendliest to mountain bikes. So yeah, so if you want to check out the full article that I wrote about stuff to do here in the springtime, well, it's still horrible out. You can check that out. I'll put a link down below. And thanks for hanging out with me today. Hope you enjoyed this little off-season ramble. And we'll see you next time. Peace.